Okay, welcome to Pucks in Deep. This is going to be a hockey podcast, all about the Flyers, hockey in general, anything the two of us deem interesting. We're just going to sort of see how this goes. So, we're just a couple of amateurs here, see if we can make this work. So I'm Justin, with me is John. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good, other than the fact that I work today, like I do every Wednesday. So did you. So, we're in the same boat. So like I said, we're not professionals. We just kind of figured, there's an audience for this, and we'll see if we're right. Basically, we figured this would be a great time to do this, or at least to start it. The draft is Friday, or at least the interesting part of it is Friday, and NHL Awards finished about an hour ago, so that's something to talk about.
Nice.
Of course that happens. The one thing I don't think of...
Still working out the kinks.
Yeah, that would be my text ringtone that everyone may have just heard. I'm assuming you did. So let me silence my phone. 5-star operation over here already. Alright, I guess just to give a brief outline, we're probably going to do a little bit of talking about, briefly about the NHL Awards, then we're going to move on to the draft, because obviously everybody, draft type can't get enough of it at this current time, so, everybody wants to know what the Flyers are going to do. Spoilers, we don't know the answer, but we're going to talk about it. And, there's some NHL news in general today. We'll get to that towards the end. So, to start, NHL Awards happened just now. A lot of non-surprising things, but also maybe a couple things we think are surprising. What do you think about the overall NHL Awards that just happened?
Well, the greatest part of it is that Randy Carlyle of Toronto Maple Leafs fame had a vote for the Jack Adams Award, which, if you don't know, is for the best coach in the NHL. And Randy Carlyle, when did he get fired? Do you know?
I mean, it was towards
how many?
It was around. I want to say around the trade deadline. It wasn't early in the season, but it also wasn't very late. It was around the time. The annual early spring, late winter Maple Leafs collapse. They figured
It's got to be like it's definitely a Toronto writer that did it that hates Randy Carlyle
I think
and voted for him as coach of the coach of the year,
yeah.
Specifically because he was no longer coaching the team.
Whoever that. If by some miracle this recording finds its way to the guy who made that
so
vote,
funny.
You were the greatest troll of all the trolls. So.
But besides that, I mean, Carey Price winning the Hart, I thought was a surprise. I didn't expect that.
Carey Price won
at least
everything.
not.
I think if I'm not mistaken, Carey Price. I think they gave him the Rocket Richard just for the hell of it. If you're not aware, he won MVP. He won Vezina. I mean, everyone knew he was winning the Vezina. I mean, what a poor year Steve Mason chose to have such a great year. He never had a shot at the Vezina because Carey Price just put up unbelievable numbers over there. But he won MVP. He won the what's it called? What's the other thing?
Ted Lindsay.
He had a share in the Jennings, which is for just least goals allowed. He tied with Crawford for that. Or I guess I should say Montreal's goalies in tandem tied with Chicago's goalies in tandem for that award. And hell of a year by him. Bergeron.
He won the Hart in a landslide. He got 139 first place votes out of a possible 157. That's insane.
Yeah, and
insane.
That's for the Hart, you said?
Yeah, that's for the Hart.
Christ,
Ovechkin finished second. He only got 8 first place tallies.
Ovechkin was the only person who could have possibly contended. Not to take anything away from Tavares, he's a great player, but he got second by a point to Jamie Benn and the Art Ross, which in and of itself was kind of an interesting development. Jamie Benn was game 82 of the season, put up 4 points to get that Art Ross.
Didn't he also have 12 points in the last week?
Something like that. He went on some kind of crazy. Came out of nowhere. He wasn't even in the conversation until the last couple of games last week, like you said, and just stole it. Jake was in the conversation all year, but he couldn't quite finish. The whole
here are Jamie Benn's last 3 games.
Sure.
Last game of the year, he had 3 goals and an assist for the 4 points.
Right.
The 2 games prior to that, he had 3 points each.
Jesus.
So we closed out the last 3 games.
That's 10 points.
With 10 points. 10 points.
Yeah.
And the game before that, pointless, but the game before that, another 3.
Mm-hmm. So 13
So
over
to
the
put
last
that-
5. I mean,
13 in the last 5 games to close out.
yeah, and as you may know, he then went on to had what was it? I don't know if it was both or just one, but he had hip surgery like immediately after the season. So I mean, like that's just incredible. Like how do you like on I don't want to say broken. It's probably not broken. So whatever the injury was to his hips.
Yeah, he had 2 hip surgeries right after, or no, he had one I think right after the season, and then one maybe a month, or no, it was within a week, wasn't it? I
It
don't.
was pretty quick.
Let me
Yeah, like I mean,
Google's.
whatever it was.
Yeah,
no matter
yeah,
what.
2 surgeries
Clearly
within a
he
week,
was-
which
he was
is
playing
insane.
injured. And on top of that, I mean, by that time, his team was out of the playoffs. He had nothing to play for. You know, I guess it's cliche, but hockey players,
Jesse R.
man,
Ross.
they just. I mean, you know, played
Just
on
play hard.
bad hips for no reason other than he wanted to. So like, you know. Anyway, Bergeron, another Selke. That's 2 straight. I think it's his 3rd total. Yeah. What else is there to say about that guy? I mean, you know, other than why is Coots not already as good as him? Fucking Berube, right?
Hey, Coots didn't get any votes, not even a 3rd
Another-
place
yeah,
vote.
yeah, it's another. Yeah, he didn't get any votes for Selke. I mean, he's gotten votes for it before, but this year nothing. I mean,
I think it wasn't he. He was right outside of the top 3 in. Was it last year or the year before?
I think the highest he ever got was like something like 5th or 7th. But whatever it is, I mean,
Which is
he's
very respectful. I think he was 21 at the
Yeah,
time.
the kids in his early 20s. I mean, you know, Bergeron's already, I believe, 28, if not older. Pulling a lot of things out of my ass here, so if I get anything wrong, I'm probably at
He's
least
29.
approximately right. Okay, great, he's 29. You know, Bergeron is a hell of a player as well. Ekblad, however you pronounce
Glad.
it. He won the Calder. I guess I'm not terribly surprised. I was kind of expecting Gaudreau there. I don't know.
I would have even picked Mark Stone ahead of Gaudreau with the way that he closed out.
They were tied in rookie points, coincidentally enough. So, you know, maybe.
I think Gaudreau started off very hot and then Stone ended hot.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, whatever. Carlson, 2nd Norris. That's another one. Not surprised by the pick. I mean, no one really jumped out at me this year on defense. I mean,
Did you note regarding the Norris? Did you see Doughty actually had more 1st place votes?
Wow. So Carlson won on the runoff.
Carlson
That's-
won. Yeah, Doughty had 53 1st place votes. Carlson had 44. Doughty was left off of 31 ballots.
Wow.
And with the Norris, you vote for 5 players.
Yeah. So people had him at
31
best
people. 31 people had Drew Doughty 6th at best. And Doughty still finished
If you're
2nd.
looking at the list, where's Weber on that list? I mean,
Weber is
perennial
4th.
snub Shea Weber. The poor guy can't win a goddamn Norris to save his life.
Shea Weber finished 4th. Right behind it was Carlson, Doughty, Subban, Weber, and then right behind him was Roman Yossi, who also had an amazing year.
Roman Josi is
Nashville's
unbelievable.
insane with their defense.
Yeah, Nashville has about 4 or 5 defensemen on their roster that would immediately be the best one on ours. I mean, what can you say about that team and the way they developed the? And then
behind
they don't even
behind
have
Yossi
Ryan Suter
was
anymore. Like it's just unbelievable.
behind Yossi was Mark Giordano for Calgary, who had an amazing year.
He probably would have been the guy without the injury. What did he do? He like tore his rotator cuff in his shoulder, something like that.
He had a pretty rough injury. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was very upset about it, as you know.
Yeah, you had him on your fantasy team there. You were riding high for a while on that guy.
He's killing it. Duncan Keith, Chris Letang, Ryan Suter, and 10 was actually John Carlson from the Capitals.
John Carlson of the Capitals.
John Carlson.
What do you know about that?
Let's see. Nothing else really
Nothing
sticks
nothing
out.
major.
It's crazy.
Other than the fact that Mason didn't get a single Vezina vote. I don't want to be a homer, but come on, like, how do you not?
I mean,
how does not one
and
person
just
vote
to
for
not
two
be a
votes?
homer, not just Mason, but even Schneider for the Devils, who also had an amazing year, albeit without the win totals, just like Mason. Him and Mason all year long were top 3, top 5 at worst in pretty much every category except for wins.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't get it. Like, it has to be the wins. I mean, like, I don't get it. Like, I'm not a hockey player at any level, so I don't know what the.
Well, and I mean, I don't know every voter, but the national narrative on Steve Mason isn't exactly great still for some strange reason.
Steve Mason's PR guy's got some work to do. I don't. In a way, I don't mind it. Like, a lot of people have that mentality of like, yeah, keep underestimating us, man. We'll show you. We're gonna come out of nowhere. Like, great. Underestimate Mason. Like, it's not gonna make any difference. But at the same time, like, it does wear on me a little. We're all on Reddit.
For him, I'm sure it doesn't bother him at all. I'm sure he doesn't give a shit. I mean, obviously he would like to be nominated, but I'm sure not being nominated is not gonna, he's not gonna lose any sleep over it. But as fans,
yeah, it'd be nice.
I kind of want to see it.
Nice
I want to see some recognition
nice
for it. I mean,
goalie.
Andrew Hammond and Cam Talbot both got a third place vote in the Vezina.
Like, that just bothers me. Like,
it's hilarious.
Like, those guys.
I mean, the top three: Price, Rene, and Dubnyk. I don't agree with Dubnyk there only because he did it for half the year. I mean, that half a year was incredible, and he pretty much dragged Minnesota to the playoffs.
I mean, Minnesota was the top team from an analytics standpoint all year. They just needed that guy, and then they more power to him. They got the guy, but we're not going to make any apologies here for the Flyers defense, and like for Mason to put up the numbers. I followed his save percentage religiously during the course of the actual season, as I'm sure you noticed. But I don't remember anymore where he finished. I want to say he finished third in regular season. I
believe he was second or third,
something like that. And
I know in that someone on Reddit on our hockey posted something where it was like adjusted save percentage.
Exactly.
I don't remember
exactly
what it was.
Mason finished neck and neck with Carey Price on that list. I know exactly
he was ahead of Carey Price.
Was he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
or tied with him, whatever it was, but right there with him.
Right. And any one of us that watches the games from a Flyers fan standpoint knows. I mean, not since Hextall have we had play this good.
Consistent goalie play that well.
Long, as everyone knows, it's a long history of failures between the pipes here. I mean, we go in and we get a guy who goes and wins the Vezina, and then he crashes his car and dies. I'm blanking on his name, which is humiliating. I'm going to get crucified for this when this goes up. The hell was his name? Pelle Lindbergh. Jesus Christ. Lindbergh, great young goalie. Of course he's dead. That's what'll happen to us, right? We had Bobrovsky, we trade him. But all's well that ends well. I couldn't be happier with Steve Mason. Like, outside of
we're turning out this is a great trade.
Price, Pecorino, I don't think I don't think I would trade him for anybody. And yeah, I'm one of his biggest fans. I don't think I have to tell you that, but anyone listening.
Yeah, and looking at save percentage for the year, if it depends how many games you go by. Who finished first is actually Andrew Hammond. If you're doing just above 20 games, with a 941. Only 24 games played. Carey Price is next with a 933 in 66 games, which is insane. Dubnyk actually ended at a 920 or a 929 with 55.
Can you only include his wild games? I don't know if that's possible. If you could do that.
There are definitely ways to do it.
Incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure it's way better. I'm just on the NHL stat page, which is okay, but not great. And then Mason right behind him by a point. All right, for the Wild, just for the Wild in 39 games, he had a 936.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, 39 games isn't nothing, Proud of him.
No, it's good solid chunk of the season. 178 GAA. He had a hell of a year.
Yeah, I mean, good for him. After getting bounced around the worst teams imaginable, he found himself on
it's hilarious to think about. Literally a year ago, Devin Dubnyk was like the laughing stock for NHL goalies.
It's actually uncanny how similar his story is to Mason's, except Mason did not get traded to a defensive powerhouse. So that's why I'm kind of on Mason's side. Steve Mason just
Did Dubnyk have a good rookie year with Edmonton?
Dubnyk had a lot of decent years. He's been on a lot of teams. He's bounced around. But, he didn't come close to the Calder, I'm sure of that. And before I'm wrong, but whatever it is, he resurrected his career on playing behind Ryan Suter and a really defensively sound system. And Steve Mason got thrown into the fire of Laviolette on his way out, and then Berube. To Berube's credit, he gets a lot of hate. He had the team playing some defense. The roster just is terrible in terms of defensive, depth and everything, excluding.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some solid pieces, but
yeah,
just didn't really mesh.
Yeah, too many people out there just making you want to bash your head against the wall. So now, good way to transition. Without further ado, we've been about 15 minutes now talking about just non-Flyers things. Draft. It's on Friday.
Yeah.
I figure it'd be pretty good to let's do we'll do 1 through 7, how we both see it. Beyond 7, who cares, right? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm gonna watch. But, what we're all here to talk about is who are the Flyers going to take, and how's the draft going to play out up until that point. So, let's not waste any time talking about 1-2. Obviously, Connor McDavid is going first overall to the Oilers, who win the third or fourth lottery in the past 7 years, whatever. Okay, so strike 2. Technical difficulties have reared their ugly head. So yeah, we're picking up at the point where we were about to start talking about the actual draft. Just to rehash what I was saying, we're gonna go over where we would take, what the player we would take rather, in each spot, and then the player that we think that each team will take in that spot, which is it's different. So yeah, without further ado, the obvious choices for 1-2 we're not going to dwell on very long. When you can take McDavid 1, the Oilers win another lottery, good for them, right? If you could do McDavid, Nugent Hopkins down the middle, I feel like that team could really actually.
They're going to be really good in a few years. If they can shore up the defense, get a solid goalie. I mean, that's any team will be pretty good with that. But their forward core is insane.
Yeah, I mean.
Especially if Yakupov can turn around with an actual coach.
Yeah, that doesn't
it's going to be nuts.
Scratch him down the third line. Sound familiar? Yeah.
To be fair, he's like 22.
Yeah, young guys. You have to develop them right, which is something Edmonton's not done. But they've overhauled the entire organization over there, and for good reason.
Top to bottom, insane.
Anyway, Eichel too, another obvious pick. Buffalo's consolation prize for the lottery is a guy who's going to go first overall, basically.
What a year to not win the lottery.
Yeah, right. That's why they probably tanked so hard, because maybe any other year you don't do what they did, trade away everything. The one thing I always point to is they made a trade for Evander Kane who needed surgery. What a genius move in terms of tanking. I mean, you acquire a guy.
What was the move that they did with their?
And they traded away one of their few good defenders in Tyler Myers. Now they got back another good guy in Bogosian, but it's like the perfect way to go about tanking is trade for a guy who's going to be very good, but is not going to play the rest of the year. And Evander Kane, kudos to them for that move.
And then their goalie, who was it, Neuwirth? I guess Neuwirth. They traded him for Chad Johnson to the Islanders, and Neuwirth he took over the number 1 from. First they traded Enroth to Dallas, right. And then up before that trade, Neuwirth had a .938 save percentage, and was actually winning games for the Sabres. So pending UFA got to trade him away. They got a third-round pick out of it, as well as Chad Johnson, who was awful.
Again, maybe any other year you don't tank quite so blatantly, because maybe the guy if you don't. To be fair, even winning the lottery is hard. Not Edmonton. Buffalo only had 25% chance. That's not great, So they shouldn't be too surprised that they didn't get McDavid. But like you said, you could do worse in terms of second overall picks than Jack Eichel. Anyway, enough about those guys. We've all heard enough about them over the past 2 years. If you've been paying attention to anything, this draft's been touted for that long. So Arizona's 3. If I'm them, I probably take Marner.
If I'm them and I'm picking, I'd go Marner. Might go Strome. I prefer Marner personally. But if I'm the GM of that team, I'm looking to trade down. Yeah, I don't want to pick a 3.
Yeah, sure. I guess for the sake of this exercise, we're just gonna kind of keep it simple. I mean,
Well, of course.
After we'll talk about like who might trade what. But I'm just gonna let's just run down 1 through 7 here. Like I said,
Sure.
Yeah, if I'm them, I'd probably take Marner. He, in my opinion, he's the third best forward. A lot of people like Strome instead of him. But here's my thing about Strome. He is Connor McDavid's teammate. He's the second line center. What a great job to have. You're this guy who's so good. You're a top 5 pick in your draft year, and you're playing behind Connor McDavid. So like when you think about any look at, we get to take his point totals with a grain of salt, in my opinion. He's every game he's playing against every team he's playing against rather in the OHL is focused on one guy, and it's not him. So when you're getting favorable matchups and you're already a top prospect, I don't
Might overinflate your value a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. He's not going to be a bust. I'm as sure as anyone else is that reads the rankings that he'll be good. I mean, I'm not going to claim to be an OHL watcher, but I just figure if he were so great, maybe he even comes close to McDavid's point totals. I don't have them on hand, but McDavid he missed some time with the hand injury this year, and he still put up just outrageous point totals. And Strome then got to be the number 1 guy while he was out for those couple of weeks, and it just to me it just says McDavid outclasses everybody. But I don't know if I trust.
I think even if he didn't play, like for example, like you said, McDavid only played part of the year. The 21 games that Strome played without McDavid, Strome put up 18 goals and 35 points.
Is that like higher or lower than his pace otherwise? Because I mean, OHL point total is usually pretty insane. Do you have like?
Let me see.
Like, what did they both finish with? Let's ask that question.
Let's see. I don't have that, but I am looking at something here now. That his points per game did dip. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing against better defense. That's exactly my point. Like,
yeah. When Strome played on the second line, his points per game was 2.15 points per game. So it's inflated because his numbers on the second line are much higher than his numbers that he took on the first line when McDavid was out. So yeah, I mean, I guess his stats are pretty inflated from playing against second pair D. I mean, but then he's a great, I guess, potential great 2C to have if you want to go that way.
I mean, if you don't not take the guy. I'm just saying, I'm comparing him to Mitch Marner. Speaking here from a standpoint of relative ignorance in terms of like, I'm no scout, but I watch some video here and there. I read some articles, and I feel like Marner gets maybe some bad press because he's not as big as some of the other guys. He's closer to Patrick Kane's size. I make that comparison intentionally. I think he's a guy who he's got
for all I've read about Marner, that is definitely the number 1 comparison I've seen is Patrick Kane
in terms of ceiling,
his puck possessions, two-way, his skating, size. I think I think the days
like
if you put Mitch Marner on the Kings, he'd be a perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, I mean behind Kopitar, you could. I mean, that's a great spot to be behind Kopitar. So I mean,
but obviously Marner's not going to go to the Kings unless they make some ridiculous trades. But anyway, 3. Yeah, I think Coyotes. If I'm going Marner if they're picking.
Yeah. And in terms of what in my case, it actually there's no difference between what I would do personally and what I would do if I were Arizona. If I'm picking third for any team, with no regard to team need, the pick for me is Marner. There's a case to be made for Hanifin. I don't know if you want to make it, but
yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say it's tough to turn down a potential, say, 7 to 10 years, maybe, however it may be, of an Ekman-Larson-Hanifin pairing. If Hanifin can turn out to be really good, that'd be pretty insane. And defensemen like that are pretty hard to come by, and they've already got a great one there.
Yeah, I mean that's. I don't know how much teams. Every team always says best player available because GMs have to, you know, never tip their hand. But you know, to some degree, when you've got like when there's comparable guys on the board, the tiebreaker is team need. And if I'm Arizona, you know, it's forward, and you got Ekman Larson. Sure, they lost Yandel, but you know, like they're a team they're coached right defensively. So I mean, the only way
I think you've got to go forward.
The only way I might go defense is if you make the argument that, you know, defense is just at a premium no matter where you go. So maybe you take the guy who's more rare in Hanifin.
And everything I've read about Hanifin as well, he seems really good. He could maybe not like Ekblad. He can step in and perform at a high level at 18 years old
on a team that was not that good. Like I get a lot of respect.
Yeah,
for Ekblad.
I know he had an outstanding year, but Hanifin I've seen compared to Drew Doughty in terms of his two-way skill, his smarts, and his poise on the ice.
I don't have to remind you of my opinion on Drew Doughty. That guy's the best in the game. So if he's anywhere close to Drew Doughty, then
tough to turn down Hanifin. But if I'm Arizona, I go Marner, and then after that you've got Toronto.
Toronto at 4. Interesting, right? Because you know they have Kessel now. Who knows if they will continue to have Kessel? Their captain is Dion Phaneuf, who, after a promising start in Calgary, really just kind of sucks.
Fell off a little bit
in Toronto. So I mean, the fans don't want him around anymore. The team likely also doesn't. Just looking at the cut of Brendan Shanahan's jib, feel like he might not like Phaneuf in terms of like that's my captain. You know, he seems like maybe his time has kind of run out. You know, he's one of those captains. It's just like it's not working out anymore. I think they probably would like to get rid of him, but maybe it's harder to do than you might think.
Yeah, I mean his cap hit is pretty substantial. I mean he's making $7 million for the next at least 5 years.
Something like that. Yeah, he's overpaid. So you know, tough to move. But you know, the point we're making here is like you know everyone. Anything you read about Toronto is that the fans want Marner or at least Strome, and you know I feel like if I'm
they've already got they've got Morgan Riley over there, so they have at least a solid young defensive prospect.
True.
Jake Gardner's only 24.
Cody Franzen is UFA now. He was over with the Predators, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was with the Predators. Either way, he's unrestricted now, and you know he was a Leaf for a while, and you know he hasn't ruled out going back. You know, just obviously if they make him an offer, he had a good year this year, Franzen. So whatever the case may be, if I'm them, I haven't seen a lot of talk about it, but I mean if Hanifin's there and I'm Toronto, I take him. That's what I do if I'm them.
So would I. But like you said, I've seen no talk of it. Everything I've seen for Toronto is whoever Arizona doesn't pick.
Which of the two other forwards are they going to get? Yeah.
Which I think is insane. I would certainly go Hanifin if I was them. Just looking at their defensive goal. I mean, their forwards, like you said, they have Kessel, JVR. Tyler Bozak, who's not really that good.
You could do like that's probably why we don't hear about Hanifin because their need for a first line center is well documented. I mean, like
I guess Kadri would pretty much
there,
be.
But I think
their
that
1C.
Faith in him over there as well. I mean, like he's probably
he's an RFA this year.
Good for a second center. Don't think you want him as your first center.
Sure. Yeah, and that's who else is on that roster? That's a center. I have Kadri and Bozak. That's all I can think of. Who else is on that team?
Their center depth is laughable. So, come to think of it, that's probably why
you probably go Strome.
they're so hell bent on, you know. Yeah, I guess maybe if I'm them, I guess maybe I do take Strome just so that I don't keep saying what I would do if it were me.
Yeah,
is the same as what I would do if I were them. Because if it were me,
thinking about it now, I can't think of who else is on that team down the middle. I gotta go Strome if I'm Toronto.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think Hanifin's a better prospect, but I think for that team you gotta go Strome.
Yeah. You know, I guess I take it back. It's fair enough. Their center depth is just not there. So, yeah. And again, like at least now I can say that I would do something if it were no team involvement. Like if it's me, after McDavid, I'm going Marner, Hannafin is my 3-4, no question. But yeah, in the case of the Leafs, I guess their need for a top line center is too great to pass up whichever one of the two is left, and they're guaranteed one of them. So it's not even like they have to worry about it.
Sorry to get away from this draft talk, but did you see the NHL 16 cover?
Oh yeah, with Kane and Taves, I saw it on the NHL Awards. I mean,
how awful does that look? Like from a design standpoint.
I think that what they said in the NHL Awards is that it's for some tagline of like play together, win together. So okay, these two guys have won 3 cups together, so good for them, right? Kane should be a Flyer. Drew was the best player in his draft, not Taves. Fuck that team. The only reason I'm not suicidal over that cup win is Chemo team, and God bless his heart, won a cup. Finally, he deserves it.
Yes, he does.
He's never won anything. Like he got like 85 silvers in everything he's ever played in. Lost in the finals with us to the same team. I mean, just to see him finally win something, like no one deserves it more. I'm preaching to the choir for anyone who's listening to this. We don't have to get into our love for Team.
Anyway, moving on to the Carolina at 5.
This is where it gets interesting for me. I mean, like it gets interesting in terms of like what they might do. It's the easiest pick in terms of if we're not going to propose any trades, it's the easiest thing to come up with because there's a consensus top 5, and it's just who's left. So in our scenario, it's Hannafin's left, and that's insane to consider because like that for such a talented defenseman to go 5th, it's almost like you know what it's like? It's like Seth Jones. Like, how did that happen?
I that was very surprising when he dropped.
Yeah, I mean, I had him first in a landslide, and you look back on it, McKinnon
had a great rookie year.
Looked like he made Colorado look really good in his rookie year, and then his second year he really, really dropped off. I mean, I still believe in him. Sophomore slumps happen, but I mean, again, it comes down to scarcity, and I mean, when you got Seth Jones on the board, like, geez, like, okay, maybe I can understand Colorado taking McKinnon because McKinnon has such potential, but their defense still is pretty bad. There's a reason they went from, okay, first year our coach is Patrick Waugh, we're in the playoffs, to, oh God, we're terrible. I think they were last in the Central, which it's easy to be last in the Central, to be fair, but
Well, I mean, it's stacked,
they had a chance to take Seth Jones, and I don't see how you pass on him. And then Florida takes Barkov too. What the hell? Like, they were just so hell bent on a center. I guess I think they were really disappointed that Colorado didn't take Jones because they really wanted McKinnon. They were like, well, fuck it, we need a center. Give me that guy. Then Drouin goes 3, and then who else but the Nashville fucking Predators are just sitting there at 4. Okay, we resume again. So we were
My
talking
internet is horrible.
Yeah, this guy's on wireless like an idiot. And so we were in the middle of we're gonna figure out a way to splice this audio up, and by we I mean me. And in the meantime,
it'll be fine. We'll throw some commercials in there.
Yeah, all the sponsors we have. I mean, this is
smooth jazz.
This is sure to be the first of many thousands of episodes of this. I mean, all the sponsors we're accruing by the minute. Like, I mean, my phone's rang at least 4 times just during this recording. I think Nike wants in.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna play some hardball with them. What's interesting about this being the first episode is this is the episode that once we're millionaires from doing this, everyone's gonna go back and listen to this one just to like because out of curiosity. It's the first one.
See the birthplace.
Yeah, like what was the first episode like? And it's like going to visit the Declaration of Independence or something. It's like it all started right there.
This will be on an 8-track in the Podcast Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they'll dig up an 8-track player just for that. Anyway, so we were in the middle of talking about
Carolina, pick number 5.
Carolina picking 5. Crazy to imagine Hannafin's there, but I mean, obviously they take him. I mean, they probably would like a center, just like most basically any other team in the damn league, except off the top of my head, the Flyers, the Penguins. I mean, even they would probably still like a third center, but look what had to happen to Jordan Staal. I mean, you can't have 3 first-line centers. 2 is already kind of too many. Anyway, there's not that many teams that wouldn't love a top center, but if Strom's gone and you're Carolina, Hannafin's
who's the next
guy.
best center behind?
Marner and Strome.
Guess
Top of my head, I'm thinking Barzal's
either
good.
Barzal or
he's
Kyle Connor.
Yeah, no, I mean neither of those guys are going fifth, so it's kind of a moot point unless Carolina wants to trade back, and again we'll get into that stuff. Yeah, I mean, if I'm them, and for the sake of argument, if we're assuming Hannafin's there at 5, both if I'm them and if I'm me, obviously you take that guy. I take him 3rd or 4th depending on need. So 5th's a steal to get that guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't bear much more discussion than that, honestly. Yeah, basically leave it at that for Carolina. Number 6, New Jersey.
And this is where it gets, I guess,
yeah, I mean,
really interesting for the Flyers.
Right. They you have to figure it's almost like the perfect storm for the Flyers to get Provorov, who spoilers for 5 minutes from now is going to be my pick for the Flyers. Because New Jersey's got a ton of young defense. They're basically set. Like their top 6 defense is set. They have 5 young guys that are all basically NHL ready, and then Mark Fane, who is well known to be very good, very underrated defenseman. That guy. So they normally you would think they might take Provorov, and maybe Shiro will take BPA as it's known, but you gotta figure New Jersey is in dire need of a forward. I mean, they're set in net, their D is good. They just need some offensive talent. Like, they're just barren. They have poor Adam Henrique and Mike Camilleri. Yager's gone. So beyond that, it's like, yikes for them.
Yeah, and we both think like what actually is going to happen is someone is probably going to trade up to that spot.
I would not be surprised. We'll get deeper into that. Yeah, we've both sort of resigned ourselves to
But if Jersey does pick,
if
Jersey does pick and they take a forward,
Rantanen or Barzal, I don't know. I think
you gotta go Rantanen.
Yeah, I mean he's the higher ranked guy. He's big. He's also a winger though. So I mean, if I'm Jersey and I've got
he plays center and winger.
Who does Rantanen?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean he's listed as a right wing in everything I've seen, but
yeah, I think right wing is his primary position, but he can play some center.
Yeah.
I mean Giroux came into the league as a right wing.
Yeah, I mean when you're that good, they just stick you in the middle. So fair enough. But
I mean Rantanen, he's quick, he's great hands.
Yeah.
And like you said, he's huge. I think he's 6'3", 6'4".
6'4", yeah. He's 18. He plays in a men's league. He's Finnish. The Finns, they develop players to not be selfish. They're very, respectable in terms of the development in that country. So, I think realistically the Flyers could end up with Rantanen, and it's a possibility.
I think they could too.
And I wouldn't.
And I don't know if I would be too upset about it now.
Yeah,
I think it would be okay. Main knock I've seen on Rantanen is that even though with his size, he's not that physical. But I think that can be coached. He can grow into it. I'm not sure how he is in terms of weight or muscle, but I know he's got a big frame.
Most of the young guys aren't going to be muscle bound just yet, but he'll.
Yeah.
Those things come in. I don't care if he's.
I mean, he's 18.
Overly physical.
He'll grow into it.
As long as he's not getting pushed around out there, he'll be fine. But anyway, we digress. If I'm Jersey, if I'm them, I think I take Barzal at 6.
Really?
If I'm forced to pick, again, I don't think they will. But if I'm forced to pick, I take Barzal. I think they need a center, and that kid, by all accounts, is pretty damn good. He's not getting that much attention because, first of all, once you get out of the top 5 in mostly any draft, you're not so sexy anymore. But in this draft, it's so deep that everyone's talking about everybody else. So
yeah, I remember seeing Barzal in like months ago rankings, and some people having him up even in the top 5. But since then, I've just seen him drop and drop even out of the top 10. I don't think he's going to drop that far. I'd be surprised if he went at 6. But
I would too, to be fair, because again, I don't think that pick will happen. I don't think New Jersey will make it. But if they I think they know as well as we do that he'll be he'll be available beyond 6. So if he's their guy,
Sure.
they can trade back a couple spots. But yeah, I mean, if I'm them, I guess I go Barzal, maybe you go Ron, and it's at this point, we're getting far enough down where
Yeah. I would go Ron, and personally, you would go Barzal.
Yeah, we can't claim to have the knowledge the scouts do here. I mean, we're just kind of spitballing, but he'll Barzal will be a good player, I think, just based on the tape I've seen, based on the way that people describe his game. He's good two-way center. He's not all offense, and that's important in today's game. You got to play D.
Sure. And who was the Zacha? I'm not sure how to pronounce his name.
How that's pronounced.
Zacha from the Czech Republic.
Another good guy. Forgot about him.
He could go there as well potentially. He plays center and left. He's more instead of a two-way player, just pretty much lethal offensive-minded player, which Jersey needs. I'm not sure if they would fit, their culture with what they do and they've consistently done.
Bit of a changing of the guard over there, though. So I mean, who knows? Lou's kind of stepped back. He's only the president now. Shiro's the GM. DeBoer's not the coach. I mean, who knows what? I mean, Devils hockey could look a lot different than we're used to seeing it coming from this season. So
probably will. Probably will. I think that's another dark horse that could potentially go there.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, Zach could be a guy that they take, but again, keeps coming back to if they want to forward, they'd be stupid not to trade back. Without further ado, pick 7, Flyers. Now, if Provorov's there, that's my pick. You
gotta take him.
We're gonna hear a lot of talk about especially if that's the pick. We're already hearing a lot of talk, but if that's the pick, we're never gonna hear the end of. We have enough of those already. We've got 4 top defensive prospects, 2 guys that are pretty much like real high level. Like Moran and Sanheim are, I'd be shocked if either of those didn't at least, pan out to be an NHL player. Gostisbehere, I'm a huge fan of. I love his game.
I think Ghost will have a good future in this league.
I just hope he can not get pushed around. He's like something like 5'10", so it's hard for a defenseman. And then Haig is, developing. He's, who knows? He's the guy I'm most worried about, if I'm being honest, making it. But it doesn't mean he's not gonna. We'd be very fortunate if all 4 made the NHL. Everyone loves to talk about them
even
all
two
as being,
out of 4 is great.
The big 4, but statistics say at least one of them is not going to pan out, or who knows what'll happen. We could always trade one. Coincidentally enough, Ray Shero, of all people, I read a quote from him from recently saying about the pitfalls of drafting solely based on need, and say the way he phrased it was good, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but he said something to the effect of you don't want to pass on somebody because you had enough of those. Down 5 years down the road, you're going to really kick yourself for making that decision. So apply that logic to the Flyers here. Yeah, we've got 4 guys who we're hopeful about, but Provorov would immediately be at worst second behind Sanheim. I'm a huge Sanheim fan, that, but he's immediately the second best defensive prospect in the system, and that's saying something when you have Sam Morin.
And that's not a knock on Morin. That's not a knock on Goose. That's Provorov he's a great prospect, and especially with the system that at least we think Hextall might be implementing for the Flyers, just based on his college days. Provorov's he's quick. He's a puck mover. He's very agile. He's creative. He plays power play. Plays penalty kill. He's all around he's pretty complete. He's 18 years old, but in terms of his game, there's no areas that really stick out as something that he's lacking in.
And you touch on an important point there. Like, that's exactly what you want when you're making one of these premium picks. You don't want to. This is why people, I think.
Yeah, if Provorov can fall to you at 7, that's amazing. That just goes to show you how deep this draft is.
Right, and then what I was going to say is this is why people correctly say, don't take Krause. Krause isn't going to be a bad player. I think he's getting a bit of a bum rap here because he's the guy to circle jerk about not taking. But
sure, he's going to go top 10.
I would imagine he'll go somewhere around 10. Yeah, like he's the guy that you say like in a draft like this you got a guy who's got some drawbacks to his game. Like why? Like if you look at his numbers from this past season, I read, I believe, Bill Meltzer today, who by the way is my hero. Like the guy writes a quality article every day of the year. It's unbelievable. Anyway, his thing today, he's compared him to Hartnell, and I mean, and he also said that whoever his
he said he's a better skating Hartnell is his
which is not hard to accomplish.
Do they still have the Hartnell Down website?
I know he wouldn't dare take it down. But
that's hilarious.
The point Bill made in the article was that whoever his top center was, I'm blanking on who it was, he missed some time this year, and Krause's numbers dropped. So what you can conclude is that he's not a creator, and so he's got a bit of not every winger is going to be able to. Not everybody's Patrick Kane. Dude, enters.
Yeah, Krause is he's a power forward.
Right. So when
he's got great size, he's got solid skills, solid hands. He's the kind of guy that he's gonna get those chippy goals in front. I mean, it's not like he has a bad shot, but he's not gonna deke through the defense or make amazing passes left and right. He's just gonna pick up those dirty goals, which you need.
Right. So like people are afraid of the Flyers taking that guy. I mean, like, I'm not going to say I wouldn't be disappointed because there's going to be better players available unless we can trade back or something. But I
would hate for them to just look. He plays left wing. We're lacking on left wing.
Yeah, like that.
Let's
exactly
take Lawson Krause.
When there's like there's so many complete players that you can get one at 7. Like you can't pass that up. So yeah, if Provorov's not there. I probably take Rantanen at that point.
Yeah, if Provorov's not there, I would go Rantanen. I like Rantanen in this draft. European forwards, can't really go wrong with them.
These days they're really looking at Tarasenko.
Philippe Forsberg.
Yeah.
A lot of young, great players that they weren't drafted terribly high.
Yeah, Tarasenko was a first rounder, but he went in Giroux's territory, and he was a mid-teens pick or something like that, and then it just speaks to look at the team that made the pick, if Edmonton or something like that took Tarasenko first overall and threw him into the lineup, would he be where he is right now? I don't think so. St. Louis.
I don't think he would either.
St. Louis did it the right way, and now
I think they brought him up the right way. When he didn't start getting even top quality minutes even halfway through this year, really. To be fair, St. Louis has ridiculous forward depth.
Yeah, I don't know how they keep not succeeding in the playoffs. Like that team is so stacked, it's unreal. The only thing that they lack is like a number one bona fide goalie, but you can make do with what they have. Like Brian Elliott's only going to get better. Not Brian Elliott. That's who
Jake Allen.
Yes, Brian Elliott's. He's like the steady guy, but they played Jake Allen in the postseason this season, and that was a good move because playoff experience is important.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're pretty off topic at this point, so yeah. I like Barzal a lot, but I'm kind of gun shy about taking another center and hoping to repurpose him. I'm getting a little bit tired of doing that. So I figure just take the natural winger and run, and he shoots right, which I know. We have some of the best right wing depth in the league. And I say that without checking a single roster. But when you have Voracek, Simmons, Matt Reed, okay, yeah, Matt Reed down here, but I like Matt Reed. That.
But Matt Reed as a third line right wing it's a pretty solid guy to have. His cap hit for his role might be a little bit high, but as a player, for a top 9 player, he's good with what he does.
If last year was the new typical, then yeah. But he kills penalties. He's got a great shot. He complements Coots very well. They have a good rapport going. I'm very happy with Matt Reed. As long as this year he makes us forget about last year. It was a bit of the injury he played through is well documented. So I don't begrudge him last season's results.
No, I think this is kind of his proof. He's what, 29 now?
Yeah, as far as young guys go, he's not that young. He's only been in the league a couple of years, but he's getting up there already. But he's on a good deal. Point is, Rantanen would then be yet another right wing, but I think it's feel like it's easier to switch a winger to left than it is to switch a center to left, because the wingers.
And Rantanen shoots left, like I said earlier. He plays center as well. Maybe I'm not sure if he's ever played left wing. I'm sure,
You sure about that?
he spent some time there.
Shoots left. I'm almost certain you're wrong about that.
Yeah, Rantanen shoots left.
Can you check that?
Because
that changes everything if that's true.
Yeah, Rantanen shoots left.
Okay, well then he should easily be a left winger. I mean, that's his natural wing is left. I mean, playing your off wing, yeah, you could play your off wing for Jake Voracek. I mean, but it makes it easier to score. But I mean, like it's like the board battles and everything, it's way harder. That being said, makes it so much more impressive what Jake does with possession. I mean, the guy's an animal, and doing that on your off wing is nuts. Because like if you think about if you're playing right wing and you shoot left and you're on the right wing boards, you're on your backhand in most of those battles if you're trying to take the puck. And how many times have you seen Jake Voracek lose a puck battle this past season?
Single digits maybe. And speaking of Voracek, thankfully at least one Flyer got some type of recognition in the NHL Awards. He was one of the first team All-Stars, along with Carey Price, Carlson, Subban, Tavares, and Ovechkin.
Okay, that's something.
Yeah. Second team, just for reference, Dubnyk, Doughty, Weber, Crosby, Tarasenko, and Ben.
How's that for a dream team?
So Voracek got some type of recognition, which I think is great. He didn't get a single Hart vote, and they vote 5 spots as well. I thought he would get at least something.
If he finished a little stronger, it maybe would have happened. I mean, he was leading the Art Ross for the better. Like I bet for the most amount of days of the year, he probably led the Art Ross. But trailed off a little bit. The team was probably just at that point too depressed to get out of bed in the morning. So I mean, who can blame him?
He still had a incredible year, and I'm very excited to see. They got to lock him up.
Yeah,
the UFA after this season.
I would do it sooner than later. I'm not. If I'm Hextall, I'm not worried about having buyer's remorse on him. I'd say the sooner the better. The less tape that exists on him, the better. Because the longer he keeps up what he's doing, the more we're gonna have to pay him. Right now, he does not kill penalties. He's only a winger. Hextall can maybe strong arm him a little bit to not. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He's gonna make us break the bank. I'm just making the point that he's an offensive guy. He only plays wing. He's not a center, so he as far as positional value goes, he plays the least valuable position, which is wing.
Sure.
So I would, if I'm Hextall, I'm talking to him right now, and I'm saying like, listen, please God, don't go UFA. Let's get you locked up before this season. I would be more than happy to give Jake something like $7 million over the next, whatever the max contract length is now. I think if you're signing your own guy,
Sure.
It's 8 years.
If
you're signing a UFA off the market, I think it's 7. And if you're re-signing your own guy, I think it's 8. I do believe that to be right. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go over 7.
Take that deal. I don't see him dropping off at all in the next few years. He's only 25.
Yeah.
If it's a 8-year deal, he's 33 at the end of the contract.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to be anywhere close to the situation Chicago finds themselves in.
Chicago.
They've got incredible players in Kane and Tapes, but I mean, those cap hits are
$25 million tied up in 3 players.
Yeah,
I mean,
you've got
G's deal is not that bad.
It's spectacular. He makes what, 8.5?
8.275.
Even better. And here's the captain of the team, one of the best face-off guys in the league.
Great two-way player, can kill penalties.
Doesn't really get
we know how
called
amazing
on.
he is offensively.
Doesn't really get called on the kill anymore that often. Maybe he'll go in there to win a draw. But
yeah, I hope his role in
that
way increases at least a little bit, just to give Coots some more offensive time.
Oh man, that's a topic for another cast. I mean, the misuse of Sean Couturier is my biggest beef with Craig Berube.
You could fill up an entire 2-hour segment on that.
Probably. You gotta feel for the guy. I really hope. I think we should count ourselves lucky that he's not sick of this team yet. Here's a guy who put up gaudy numbers in juniors and has accepted a role as a defense-first forward, and he's better than that. And
much a defense-only forward.
Yeah, I'm hopeful
His usage
about the
is
new coach.
insane.
Yeah, he's got anyone who frequents Flyers Reddit or even actually Reddit hockey, it's on there even every now and then, knows that he literally plays the hardest minutes in the league. Like, that's not an exaggeration. The hardest minutes in the league in terms of quality of competition, zone starts, you name it. He's like outside of pure defensive fourth liners or something like that. I think he has the lowest offensive zone starts in the league. Like it's a tragedy, to be honest with you. I hope Lawton makes the team out of camp this year and can be the third center.
I would love that.
And let him take a good deal of the defensive zone draws. Not all of them. Coots is still going to be our number one guy. But give the man some wingers. Give him Wayne Simmons and Matt Reed. Put him on the second line. Put him in the damn offensive zone. Put him on the second power play along with Michael Raffl. Gee, there's so many topics that are not for this episode.
Yeah, I mean, if Coots and Braden Shen last year, towards the end of the year, they were playing well together. And if Braden Shen is still around,
small
come
sample size,
next
but
year,
I would start the season with those two. Yeah. So maybe. Yeah. What do you do with Simmons? Man, we're just making up podcast topics left and right here.
What do you do with Simmons? That's I was thinking about that earlier today. Actually, I was messing around on not General Fanager, but some other site that has
that
like an armchair GM
thing. Yeah.
Not even that one. I found it. There was another one that was posted on Our Hockey that I was playing around with just for a few minutes. But I was kind of just playing around and threw Coots in the second C spot, Lawton in the third, and naturally I put Braden Shen on Coots' right wing. That's where he was playing at the end of last year, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I was just looking at Simmons' name, and we tried to play him at left last year, and he didn't really fit in that spot.
I don't really recall how that went, but I know it didn't last, so couldn't have
it
been
didn't. It was only a couple of games. I mean, maybe if you give it a full off season, maybe that can go. But would you want to do like a Simmons, G, Voracek first line, or would you want to kind of split up the riches a little bit?
Maybe you do something like. See, you don't want to take Jake off right because that's where he plays. You know what I mean? Like you let that guy do whatever he wants. And like you said, Shen played well on Coots' right, so giving Coots Voracek as a winger is great in theory, but it doesn't actually work the way the roster's made up because if Voracek's going to play right, Shen has tried and I don't want to say failed, but come up short at left so far. And if he's on a team, you want him to do well. If for no other reason than to increase his trade value. I mean, we can't keep living in this sort of limbo where he's only okay. We got to figure out a way to make good use of Braden Shen.
Yeah, and I mean he's an RFA after this year as well.
True.
So you got to find a spot for him or let him go. And that being said, I wouldn't want to play Simmons on a left line or on the left with. Like a Simmons Coots Shen line. I mean, in terms of size and physicality, might be great, but I don't know if that's going to produce that much offensively. I mean, Coots has great vision, but there's no.
He just needs the confidence. I mean, that's the thing. There's going to be a lot of people that disagree with you on what you just said. I don't. I think it's a confidence problem, and it's Craig Berube's fault. You look.
Coots put up 37 points last year with his usage with Umber and Matt Reed.
Exactly.
Ridiculously hobbled Matt Reed.
You make the right
as
argument, but some people don't look past that. And I do watch the games. I watch every last one, as we both do. And I see him with the puck, and I see that sometimes he's a little bit. There's a little bit of the double clutch. Doesn't
tries a little bit too hard.
Not even that. It's just that he doesn't. It
just
doesn't
hesitates?
seem comfortable. Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't seem like, and that's something that has been drilled into him at this point. Like he's probably just. He's not stupid. He probably says like, I'm one of 4 people on this entire roster that knows how to play defense. So somebody's got to do
including the defenseman.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I said roster. I didn't say forward core. Yeah.
And a lot of people give him flack for his job in the shootouts as well.
Yeah, again, confidence. That's all confidence. That's exactly.
It's a confidence thing. I remember when he was in his rookie year.
Claude Giroux.
At the All-Star game, Coots. He didn't score on it, but he had that ridiculous.
We all
And
know.
I'm sure, like, I'm sure he shows something in practice, or else they wouldn't keep putting him out there
I mean, it is Berube, so who knows
for
sometimes.
shootouts. Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, look at. I don't know if you know this, but and again, I'm doing this solely based on memory. I'm not looking this up as I say it, but if I'm not mistaken, I think G went 1 for whatever he did, and he obviously participated in every shootout. 1 for whatever the total number of attempts was in the shootout this year, and we've all seen Claude Giroux's shootout highlights. It's literally that's a matter of confidence. Like the guy's got some of the best moves anyone's ever done, and he scored once in the shootout, and we were in double-digit shootouts this year. He couldn't. Once you start, once you go on like a 3-miss streak over the course of a month or whatever it is, even the best.
Well, here's hoping for less shootouts this year with the new
this is true. It's another
3v3 overtime.
3v3. Yeah, it's another thing we were going to get into. So right before that, let's wrap up the draft and let's talk about what we actually think is going to happen. In terms of trades here, it's anybody's guess. Something that nobody predicts is probably what's actually going to happen. But number one, I was reading, and this is one thing I do have on my screen, a bit of an impromptu AMA by Jeff Merrick, who does a podcast on hockey as well. Someone asked him, what's Arizona going to do with number 3 picks? Everyone knows what's going to happen 1-2. Those picks are unattainable by trade and very obvious. So the only question left is, what will Arizona do? And he replies that he believes that they will take Strome. Now, if you recall what I was saying earlier, this is very interesting to me because to me, Strome is 5. Now, if I'm the Flyers, if I work for them, if I'm a scout, and I'm not, but if I am, and Strome's 3, then I know for a fact that Marner or Hannafin is going to be there at 5. And that is, to me, too good to pass up. Like, I don't know what it would... Like, I don't claim to be able to predict what it would take to get from 7 to 5. But it's only 2 spots. Carolina is the team that owns the 5th pick.
And you also got to think that there's going to be 20 other teams calling for that pick.
It's true. It's going
So
to be in demand.
you're not just you don't just got to convince Carolina. You've got to beat out everyone else.
The best offer, exactly. And we are technically in their division, even though it doesn't seem like it. So maybe they don't.
It's still weird to me.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to help us out. But for the sake of argument, if I'm Hextall and I see Dylan Strome go 3, I'm salivating at the concept of jumping the Devils and getting Mitch Marner at 5, or if Toronto takes him, Noah Hannafin. What it comes down to, if it's Hannafin at 5, is how much better is he than Provorov if you think you're going to get Provorov at 7?
Yeah, and then I guess it comes down to
It's a simple value.
What you'd have to
there.
give up to move the 2 spots. I mean, if I have to give up 29 and a prospect along with 7, I don't know if I do that.
Depending on the prospect, especially if it's one of the big defense prospects.
Say it's yeah, I guess you go one of the 4, which I assume we would want to go high. But
just in terms of, I mean, he's pretty undeniably the 4th best one of the 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's who we'd be most willing to part with. 7.29 in Hag for 5. Is that so outrageous? I don't know.
Well, I don't know if that's that outrageous. What is the difference? Is Hannafin?
Yeah, is Hannafin better than Provorov
29 and Hag?
2 players, by basically 2 late first round,
and not just 2 players.
Round
A whoever you're going to get in the end of the first, which we can get into, and then Hag, who's not a bad defensive prospect. Like he's still projected to be an NHL player as of right now. Obviously, he's number 4 in the totem pole, but
he's in the AHL. We've spent some resources developing the guy. He's got some value. But again, they obviously spitballing here. But I mean, the prospect of, no pun intended, the prospect of being able to get Marner at 5 or Hannafin, who's either one of them, but I lean towards Marner if I'm being honest. It's like, I mean, it's just so tempting. I mean, like, especially considering we jumped the Devils at 6 to do it. It's great to screw them a little bit, right? So
So say you could get the 5th round pick without giving up number 7. What would you do?
I'm sure we could. I mean,
Where would you stop?
We have 2 of the best
Well,
forwards
yeah,
in the
we
NHL,
have.
but it doesn't mean I'm willing to part with them.
Well, not giving up a G or a Jake, but factoring in the young players that we have, the defense's prospects, whether you're thinking about throwing out a Moran or a Ghost or even a Coots.
If we're going to pick 5th
where would you
and
go?
7th, I'm going to say, because Carolina has to then say to themselves, we want, like, to lose the 5th pick in this draft is like insane. So like you have to think from their perspective. I mean, if I'm Carolina and I'm gonna lose 5th without getting 7th, I would say it starts with Coots. Throw in 29, and Moran at least, and like that sounds insane, right? But like you have to think of it if you're a Carolina Hurricanes fan, like.
Yeah, no, I get that. So would that be something
here.
that you would do?
So
you're guaranteed Provorov at 7.
So if I'm going to get Provorov, and who do I get? I get to guarantee me somebody 5. If it's Marner, that's going to make it more interesting for me.
Marner or Hanifin, whatever you want. So you get Marner, you get Provorov, and you're giving up Coots, Moran, and number 29.
I don't think I can part with Coots. Like maybe.
No, I don't make that trade.
Maybe it's just the familiarity of it. I'm a fan of Sean Couturier, so I have a little bit. I'm partial to him, but like. If you look at the teams that are successful in this league, they all have a guy with Coots' skill set. They all have, like, Chicago has won 3 cups with Taves. The Kings won 2 cups with Kopitar. The Bruins won a cup with Bergeron. Like, there's so many, like, all of those guys, like, if Coots can get even close to that echelon, like, name a guy that's like them that's on a bad team. I can't. So, I mean, the only other, like, Datsuk is no longer the perennial Selke candidate, but even the Red Wings still make the playoffs every year. Like, Datsuk has slowed down a little bit, but he did finish over a point a game last year.
I'm trying to think who are the other players that I would. I mean, you have Backus, same thing with the Blues. Who Datsuk, one of the best of all time.
Yeah, I think he's in the conversation. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I don't. When I say in the conversation, I don't mean for like best. I don't know. I couldn't even put a number on it. Top 50 ever, but that's. I'm just saying. That guy is crazy, and.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the only other trade possibility I wanted to talk about is what we alluded to earlier, and that's the many times, and that's the. The more I think about it, the more I think there's no chance it doesn't happen. As long as the top 5 picks go as planned, when New Jersey's on the clock at 6, they're trading that pick if that's the way it goes down. Like they need a forward, and there's a ton of guys that are going to be available 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that they can turn 6 into that pick plus, and they would be stupid not to, unless they just really want to take Provorov. I mean, who can say? But like, when you think of it from their perspective of if we take a forward 6, it's a bit of a reach in terms of what the rankings probably are internally for them, and then on top of that, they deny us Provorov, and being able to stick it to the Flyers, I'm sure is something the Devils would love to do. So they know very well we pick after them, and so the more I think about it, I just feel like
ever since you brought that up the other day,
someone's gonna hop up there.
Maybe the Sharks hopping up from 9,
something like that. So someone's gonna jump in there and take that pick, in my opinion. Yeah, like someone's gonna want Provorov, is what it is. And if it happens that way, it happens that way. Again, I wouldn't be terribly upset with Ron or Barzal, so I've made peace with it. But I really feel like that's the way it'll happen. Like they'll trade out of that pick a few spots, make sure someone denies us yet another great defense prospect. It kind of makes too much sense to not happen.
Yeah, I mean, I can even see Columbus jumping up. They're lacking on the defensive end.
Yeah,
they pick right after us at 8, moving up 2 spots. It's not going to. It shouldn't cost them too much. I mean, we're just talking what it could hypothetically be from 7 to 5, but I don't see New Jersey picking there. You're right. The more I think about it, I mean, you have the three after Philly. It's Columbus, San Jose, and Colorado. All three of those teams could use young defensive prospects.
Almost anyone can. It's the Flyers and the Devils are in the very enviable position of, yeah, maybe we don't need a top young defense prospect.
Sure.
Which is a great thing to realize about your team. You know, like we have such good young D depth now for the first time in forever. That, you know, sure we would like to have Provorov, but
it's not the end of the world if
he
you don't
goes
get
elsewhere.
the guy.
You know, he'll forever be one of those guys that you look at for the rest of his career and say, well, what could have been. You know, you watch his career and he goes on to be an all-star.
Like Ristolainen last year.
Yeah, exactly. The year before, yeah, he was the guy I wanted the Flyers to manage to get, and Buffalo took Ristolainen, and so I was, you know, I have a bit of a close eye on the way he's developing, and I always lament that we couldn't get him, but we got Moran, and you know, who knows which one of those two will pan out to be better than the other. Couldn't tell you. So
it should be an exciting few years.
Yeah. So to wrap up in general NHL news, the commissioner himself came out with, you know, a bit of a couple of changes to the way things will be happening. First of all, overtime is now 3v3, which is great because it means fewer shootouts.
Hopefully. I'm still kind of sour that it's only a 5-minute 3v3, no 4-on-4, and leading into 3v3 like the AHL did last year, or even a 5 minutes of each, which would have been perfect.
That's what I would like. Maybe
and then a shootout if you want to go, but
yeah, I mean,
there should still be less shootouts.
The shootout is a mockery of hockey as in general, and I don't even just say that as a fan of a team that, as most of the listeners know,
the act of the shootout itself, I don't mind. I mean, it's impressive. I just don't think you should
decide a point. Like
decide a game.
Yeah, it's do it in the All-Star game. You know, wherever else, you know, do it on the playground. But we're talking about real points here. Like the year before last, when the Devils went like 0-for-12 on the shootout, you know, that
you missed the playoffs.
Missed the playoffs, right? And like, you know, it's just that shouldn't be happening. Like it's a silly thing. It's not. It has no. There's no correlation between which team is better of a hockey team. It's just a skills competition, as Bill Meltzer famously always refers to it, and it's kind of a cop out. It's like everybody hates ties. Everybody hates long, drawn out overtime, except. Well, when I say everybody, I mean
the general
casual.
Yeah.
I watch overtime. I don't mind it at all. It's awesome. In the playoffs, it's obviously more exciting because it means more. But even a regular season game, overtime is exciting. You know, it's sudden death. But you know, they're like, okay, well, we just need to end the game. So let's parade some bullshit up and down the ice, and whoever happens to score on a penalty shot, where league-wide save percentage on shootouts is something in the 7s. I don't know. I'm pulling stats out of my ass like it's my job tonight, but you know, what do you expect the goalie to do? I mean, the guy's 1-on-1. It should be deciding games, in my opinion. You know, rack up enough of those, and you've got yourself the difference between making the playoffs and not. It already happened to the Devils. It could be the difference in seeding. You know, maybe that doesn't sound like much, but if you're a 2 seed versus a 3 seed in your division, that's the difference between home ice in the first round. It's big. Home ice, as far as home arena advantage goes, I think hockey is the sport that has the most. You dictate line changes when you're home.
There's actual advantages, not just
known to
crowds behind it. It's actually
like the loudest crowds in sports, basically, maybe aside from soccer, and they're just singing.
And the Seahawks
singing the whole time.
and the Chiefs.
Yeah, so you know, the environment in general. It's home ice is huge, and you know, maybe the teams finish 2-3 one way if there's no shootout, and they finish 2-3 the other way if there is one. Seems inconsequential, but it's like these things matter.
Could actually be the difference. Yeah.
theoretically decides who wins the cup that year. Like, I don't think that's something to be taken lightly. You know, it's like everybody looks at it in these little miniature examples. Like, it's 1 point here, it's 1 point there, whatever.
Sure,
like,
but on the grand scheme of things,
I can't separate it from like you said, the grand scheme of things, where it's like something like that shouldn't be making a difference. I belabored the point enough. I think you get it. So it's good. You know, potentially fewer shootouts. Great news. Not only because our team is historically the worst team in the league at it,
so bad,
but I genuinely do not believe in it. And since Bettman has been on record many times saying it's not going anywhere, the fewer we can have, the better.
Yeah, I agree, and hopefully that leads that way. Other rule changes. I mean, there's the defensive zone face-off rule. New one.
Let's see. The letter of the rule goes based off of memory. If you are in the defensive zone, you must put your stick down first in a face-off circle.
And it used to be the away team, right?
It was always the away team had to sort of tip their hand first. So that actually goes right hand in hand with what we were just talking about. Home ice advantage diminishes a little bit with this new rule. It's another thing we didn't even mention. Home ice advantage, another tangible advantage of it is that you used to always have the advantage in the face-off circle, not only with line matchups, but your center got to put his stick in second, which is huge. And now that only still applies in center ice when there's no defensive zone team. So, you know, that's something. We'll see how that pans out, I guess. Kind of makes you think maybe a little more about who you put out there on the defensive zone draw.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm sure, like, general fans not even going to really think about that much, but you know, coaches are all over that. Going to be all over that. And then right. The other major change was the coaches challenge.
Yeah, step in the right direction. It's very limited in its scope. I believe it's only applicable to offsides and goal interference. But
yes,
you know, we've seen this happen.
But it's a start.
Yeah, we've seen it happen.
I mean, look at
sports. Like,
look how it is in baseball. Baseball, when it first implemented video challenges, video replays for things like that, it was very small, and now it's expanded and it's expanded because people see the benefits of it.
Exactly. So yeah, so for this first season, it's going to be limited. And then something will happen. We're all going to see it on the front page of our hockey one day. This was not reviewable. God fucking damn it. You know, and like next year, okay, fine, that's reviewable, and so on and so forth. It'll happen, but it's a step in the right direction. You know, like, the refs aren't perfect, far fucking from it, if I do say so myself. But yeah, I mean, being able to challenge something like, you know, think about when Briere was offsides against the Penguins in the playoffs.
Sure.
Remember that?
Which he was.
He was offsides by
he was definitely
foot.
Offside.
Not one of his feet. I mean, a 12-inch foot. Yeah, the screenshot is still fresh in my memory where he's accepting that stretch pass from well inside the zone. That wouldn't have counted. Which, you know, it's a funny memory, but to be fair, shouldn't have happened. So, you know, other exciting change is we draw ever nearer to a 32-team league with balanced conferences, which would be nice. Getting a little tired of the West, you know, each division having 7 teams. You have to finish top 3 of 7 in both of the Western divisions to make the playoffs. Like, that's a little too easy. There needs to be an 8th team in both of those divisions. We all know it. And expansion seems to be on the horizon.
It seems like Vegas is definitely going to get a team by all indications. Which, I mean, it's high risk, high reward. I mean, the market there could be amazing.
I think the NHL has dollar signs in their eyes with that.
Agreed.
That's what I'm worried about. Like, they're always, like, you know, the NFL doesn't have to worry about money, but the NHL does. And, like, you know, they first of all, they want the $500 million expansion fee, no matter who pays it. But, you know, they really want to expand the game. You know, they're trying it with Arizona. There's still a team there. Some people don't think there should be. Florida and Tampa. You know, Tampa's got a solid following, but mostly attributable to the fact that they're a successful franchise.
Sure.
Florida is getting better, but, you know, their turnout is abysmal. So, you know, I fear that they're instead of putting another team in Canada and one in Seattle, where you can be sure that fans would be all over it, they, like Vegas is like equivalent to money, and I worry that it might be a bad choice to put a team. Like there's got to be some reason that someone more well versed in the topic than me can get into that explains why there's not a team in Las Vegas in any sport outside of the XFL, however long that lasts. So
I think it had a solid 3 years. I mean, Vegas, it's kind of a tricky subject to get into because, I mean, obviously in terms of tourism attractions, it's huge. But how many people live there that are hockey fans or that will be hockey fans? I mean, you can say if you put an NFL team there, they would be hugely successful. You put an NBA team there, probably the same. NHL, I don't know. I think it would be, maybe because I'm biased and I want the NHL to succeed. But I mean, obviously, cities like Seattle and Quebec City, which is another one, is even people talking about getting Toronto a second team, Portland. What else is in there? Kansas City. Would Kansas City have a big market for hockey?
I don't.
San Antonio in Texas.
It's close to St. Louis. I think Texas has one team that's plenty for them. I thought about when this topic when the conference realignment happened and Detroit came over to the East and everyone thought expansion would happen way sooner than it's happening. I kind of had my eye on Wisconsin, but
okay.
I guess the reason that wouldn't happen has to have something to do with
No, I think Milwaukee would be a great spot.
Theoretically, but I bet what we don't know is that they're all Red Wings fans.
That's probably exactly right.
It's a cold weather spot. I know University of Wisconsin has a hockey team in the NCAA that has a pretty good following. I know there's hockey fans there. I know it, and they would be able to slot right into either conference, honestly. But they could be in the West if they had to be. That's the thing. Like you should want both teams in the West. So maybe if it's Vegas and Seattle, then I'm not quite as mad about Vegas getting the team.
Sure.
Because it has to balance the conferences. Anything else is
you just go Seattle, Portland, have an instant rivalry.
Yeah, and they would have a trio rivalry with the Canucks because they're all
Vancouver right there.
Mm-hmm. But there's lots of things you could do. I mean, I think one of Portland and Seattle is probably enough. They're close. Who knows? It could happen any way you can think of, basically. But from all accounts so far, it looks like Vegas is the front runner. I've always been rooting for Seattle. I think they need a team, but whatever deal they have with the NBA team as well seems to be constantly stonewalling them. So
R.I.P. Supersonics.
Yeah, I miss that team. I remember. I'm not much of a basketball fan, but yeah, it was a cool team name. Probably because it was around when I was a kid, and it reminded me of Sonic the Hedgehog. So, yeah. I guess that pretty much covers everything we want.
Yeah, touches on pretty much everything that we wanted to talk about. I think we've got a solid 2 hours.
We'll see what happens.
Cut it down a little bit,
as they call it. Yeah, using the lingo in the biz. I know what post means. Post production.
Motherfucker.
Yes. Well, yeah. If you made it this far, then that's awesome because that means this has been successful. Sure. So who knows? And next time, if depending on if everyone gives us death threats, then maybe there won't be a next time. But
we'll still make it next time.
Next time, there will, even with death threats. I don't know.
Nah, I mean, I don't think anyone's actually gonna. I don't know. Maybe we'll get motivated by it and become better. Because we don't want to die. Our families are in danger.
Yeah. True. But what if the death threat is don't ever make another podcast or I will hunt you the fuck down?
Well, then
that's what I was worried about.
We changed the name.
It's ingenious. we'll both be wearing a fake nose and mustache thing, even though this is audio.
Well, I'm wearing one now.
The guy will never.
Are you not wearing yours?
Oh, okay. Well then you'll take yours off next time, and I'll give it to me.
Genius.
And we'll both be different people. And then the death threat guy he won't know what hit him. But anyway, so assuming this next time the draft will have happened, we'll react not just to the first pick, to the 29th pick, any guys that we got in the mid rounds. We'll talk about them. Also, we're going to probably be touching on the new coach. What we hope he improves on. What we thought Berube did well. What we thought Berube didn't do well. We already touched on that a little bit in this episode, but what we feel like needs improvement. Mostly centered around the coach and maybe a few miscellaneous topics. As you can tell, we ramble. We'll
I'm sure there will be some trades that we'll touch on as well that happened throughout the draft.
Oh yeah, there's bound to be some interesting things.
We should
going
have
on Friday.
some interesting topics to talk about. Maybe some more expansion news. Who knows?
Yeah, as it happens, we will touch on it. So, yeah, without dragging on this outro too long, that'll pretty much do it for us. So, yeah, I don't know how to end this, so I'm just gonna do it.
I think we just say,
thanks.
like, fuck the Penguins, right?
Yeah, that's the thing you do, right? You say that, and then, hate on the beat writers, I don't know. Crosby sucks, even though he's the best player in the league, and other such tropes that everybody loves.
If anyone actually listened to this through and they're a Flyers fan, they're probably gonna flame you so hard. Crosby's the best player in the league, you fucking faggot.
What are you talking about? Best player in the league is Zach Romaldo.
Zeke Romaldo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Got his name wrong. Zeke Romaldo.
Oh, that was great. Alright, let's wrap this up.
If you don't know what we're referencing, please Google Zeke Romaldo immediately with an M as in Mary.
Shit.
Excellent satire. Alright, anyway, we're done here. Let us know what you think. Any feedback would be appreciated. Catch you guys later.